Getting your first car is one of the biggest milestones of a teenager's life. It is something you will remember until the day you die. And for most teenagers, especially ones into cars, they want to have something cool. For the past 20 years, that problem was pretty easy to solve. Just get a cheap, reliable, and cool JDM car. Or maybe you even have a little extra money to spend and you could get a muscle car or a low-end sports car. Nowadays, all of these are seemingly impossible for a teenager with only 4 or 5 grand. A freaking Miata costs 5K, for goodness gracious. And the one that costs 5K is going to have like 200,000 miles. And you can bet your parents aren't going to let you get that with 100,000 miles on it. But there is one solution to this problem. If you want to take a risk and have a cool car, maybe you can consider going German. Now, yes, I know, anywhere you look online, anyone you hear from will tell you buying a German car as a first car is a horrible idea. But I am here to tell you the opposite. I've been a 2006 Audi A4 with 130,000 miles for almost a year now, and I've had zero problems. In this video, I'm going to go over the pros and cons of owning a German car as your first vehicle. And hopefully by the end, I can convince you. Let's get into this. I've got 5 pros and 4 cons that I'm going to be talking about. Probably the biggest pro about these cars is the price. Due to the fact that pretty much all German cars are considered luxury vehicles, they have a very steep price drop off once they become outdated. I'm going to use my car for example. In 2006, the MSRP for a 2006 Audi A4 2.0 Turbo Quattro was $30,340 or $44,593 in today's money. I got mine off of Facebook Marketplace for only $4,000. You also have to take in the factor of it having 124,000 miles, but it costs just 1/10 of what it did when it was new. That is a crazy drop in price, especially in today's market. When looking at the 3 main German car brands that you would be considering, because you sure as hell are not buying a Porsche for cheap, which are Audi, BMW, and Mercedes, there are plenty examples of this. The second pro of going German as your first car is they look nice. Whether you like it or not, all of these 2000 German cars look nice, for the most part. Now yes, none of them are going to be sporty looking like a JDM car or like big and buff like a muscle car, but at least they're all classy, you know? None of them are ugly, and that brings me to my next pro, which is modability. Even if they aren't the flashiest looking cars, if you throw some coilovers and new wheels on pretty much any of these, they're gonna look extremely good, I can guarantee that. And let's say you were like me and your 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder just isn't enough with only 200 horsepower. Well, that is where engine modifications come in. And yes, this will probably not benefit the reliability, and these cars can be pretty hard to work on, but at least you're not trying to modify your 2012 Chevy Equinox. I'll just take you through my mod list, most of which I haven't done yet because I'm broke, but they are still very affordable and you can install them yourself. First, I got a diverter valve and an intake, both which sound extremely good and will help with the tune. The diverter valve was $143 and the intake was $375, the total of about $554. I installed these both myself without ever working on a car before, and it took me about 12 hours in total for both of them, which is a very long time for these 2 parts because they're both pretty easy to install, but I was proud of myself because like I said, I've never worked on a car before. That's all I've done so far, but once I get new spark plugs, a downpipe, and a test pipe, I can buy the Boost Dynamics Stage 2 tune, which will add 90 horsepower, 110 pound-feet of torque, and it will also make the car shoot flames. For all this, it's only $1,548, which is not a lot, especially when you don't have to pay for bills and things like that, because you're probably going to be in high school if it's your first car. So if you want to get into working on cars, there's a huge aftermarket selection for these. The final 2 pros are that they're all decently fast and that you are also buying the name. All of these cars are German, so they are somewhat fast factory. Like I said before, my car is turboed with 200 horsepower, and you can get a 335i for decently cheap, which are extremely fast due to the fact that they have a twin turbo V6. You can also get a Mercedes S-Class for cheap, which are pretty fast, and then you can also buy like an Audi S4, which are obviously fast. They're all in like the same category, you know? The final pro is, like I said, the name. You know, who does not want to drive a BMW, Mercedes, or Audi? If you've got a hot date, would you rather pick your girl up in a 2002 Honda Accord or a Mercedes-Benz? Obviously, the Mercedes. Just don't tell anyone that the Accord was actually more expensive than the Benz. Now time to get to the cons, which most I can give first-hand experience on. First being reliability. These cars can be extremely reliable and last well over 200,000 miles, but only if they are well maintained. The problem is that you aren't the first owner of this car if it's going to be a first car that you're getting for like under like 7 grand usually. So who knows how well it was taken care of of before you, so when you're buying a German car, try and look for one that isn't modified. Maybe it was one owner or owned by an old person, and like I was lucky enough to have only 2 previous owners, one of which kept track of all the maintenance done to the vehicle and gave me a list, which was very lucky on my part. As long as you are thorough with your search, you should be fine. Just don't buy the 335i with 180,000 miles and 5 owners. You might just have to opt for the lower trim like a 328i that only has 120,000 miles and 2 owners. It will benefit you in the future. Trust me, I know. I haven't had to take my car to the shop even once, so just be very smart with your search. Con number 2 is the cost to fix a German car. Let's say you get a check engine light and it's something you can't fix yourself. You take it to the mechanic and they tell you they don't work on German cars, which leaves you with a specialty shop with a dealership, which will both leave you with a big hole in your wallet. This and reliability are definitely the 2 biggest problems, and they can both be avoided if you make a smart decision on what car to buy. Final 2 cons both sort of tie in together, which are the price of gas and oil. Nearly all these German cars require premium gas, which is already expensive enough, not taking current gas prices into account. The gas mileage isn't terrible as long as you don't get any of the large executive cars like an A8 or a Series 7 BMW. My A4 gets around 24 miles per gallon on average, with about 400 miles per tank. The price for me to fill up its full tank is around $70, which usually lasts around 2 weeks. It isn't terrible, but it's not going to be as good as a Toyota Camry. But then you have to drive a Camry, so, you know, pick your poison. Oil is also pretty expensive due to the fact that you have to get full synthetic, which costs around $80 for an oil change at a shop, or you can do it yourself for a lot cheaper. All in all, do I think you should get a German car? Well, yes, I do. You just have to be very cautious when buying one. Look for a car that hasn't had a lot of owners, doesn't have an absurd amount of miles. I would try to stay below 150,000 and find one that was well maintained. I looked on Marketplace for about an hour a day for 2 months and found the right car. But trust me, you will be thanking yourself later if you don't send it and buy the cheapest car. You actually have a thorough search. I've had an only positive experience with my Audi in the 10 months I've had it, and if you follow the guidelines I've laid out for buying one, then you will too. Well, that concludes our video. Don't forget to subscribe.